This is the Canfield Fairgrounds, and these are the Outlaws of monster truck racing. Up next, a myriad of color-clad steel steeds will push industry limits on one of the wildest straight-line tracks ever conceived. Like old times here at the Canfield Fairgrounds in Canfield, Ohio, just outside of Youngstown, Ohio. There's Chrome, there's Candy Apple, and there's monster trucks. If you had enough time over on Main Street, you come to this side of the fairground to watch the chaos. And Joe, this has been a long time coming, since last year. Finally happened. It's a little different than you pictured, but it's badass.
I'm stoked on this track, man. You know, we had a lot of crazy ideas on how to utilize school buses on the racing course. It's 410 feet long with a school bus tabletop right in the middle. It's going to be fast. It's going to be exciting. We got the Megas out here running too, our Pro Mod class, the Young Guns, the Minis. We got the two vintage trucks. Gary's going to go out and do an old school car crush exhibition in Lone Ranger. It's going to be an exciting show, man.
And I was watching the Mega guys, the Pro Mod guys. They're normally not fearful of big jumps. They were eyeballing these things quite a bit. They're a little bit nervous about doing this on a racetrack.
I'm just really thankful all those guys showed up because, you know, a lot of them have been running for me at other shows this year, and every show I push their limits a little bit more as far as what their comfort zone is, and they find a little bit more and a little bit more of what they can take and what their trucks will take, and they're like, okay, and then they show up here and I throw school buses into the mix, and I can tell they're a little tentative, but I think they're all pretty darn confident.
And of course, we talked about the 410-foot track. That's from the starting line to those checkered flags down there. We have to talk about this. You have this nice Rigid Industries tree here.
That's right. You know, I decided to up the game a little bit, and Rigid Industries helped us out a little bit with that. Our idea is to be able to stage trucks and not have a guy that has to be in harm's way trying to stage the trucks. He'll be staging entirely with the lights. When one truck rolls up, the first yellow light goes on when it's time for them to stage. Second yellow light, they're staged. Next truck, yellow light comes on, that's their cue to move forward. Second yellow light comes on, they're staged, and it's a few seconds and they go on green. If the red light ever comes on, that's just to tell them they got to shut the motors off because somebody probably crashed at the other end.
And something else that makes this like old times, and the last thing I do want to talk about is fields changed over time because this has been just a shake-up year, but you did not get a bad field of trucks here. But we got to talk about a guy who got a big win here back in 1996, Alan Piezo. You know he's going to want to relive those golden years, and he and Jerry have been at it the same amount of time. Alan's still out here on the racetrack.
That's right, he certainly is, and it's really cool to have him and the Predator name out here back at Canfield. I've watched so many videos of Penda Series, and I mean, I've lived here my whole life, so I've seen every monster truck show practically that's been on this dirt, including seeing Alan Piezo out here, and it's really exciting to have him back. Such an iconic name in the sport, and such a guy with such a rich history in monster truck drag racing.
You guys brought that Nightmare Express out. You've had it in competition. This will probably be the most wicked competition this thing's been through. The truck's had some upgrades, some big upgrades recently, but do you think it's really ready for this?
Oh, absolutely. I tell everybody I'll take that truck and I'll go run that truck at any show in this country at any time. We built that truck. It's Gary Bauer's truck personally. It's not owned by Sylvester Bauer Racing like Bad Habit is. It's still his personal truck, but he was like, let's do this gig at Speed Vegas. Let's make a good, safe, fun ride for people, but let's totally update this truck so that if we want to go compete with it, we can, and we can compete at a high level. So it has all the latest safety upgrades. It's got longer travel shocks. It's got 26-inch travel shocks. It used to have 18-inch travel. It's got Patrick housings, all the wheel tethers, billet Pablo spindles, SCS axles. It's everything a modern-day race truck is, just with an older style chassis and 4 seats.
If you want to take a ride, and that thing does have 4 seats, Joe, we're going to sit back and let this thing get underway. I know you're busy. I appreciate your time. You stay with us because when we come back, we're going to go qualifying right here at the Canfield Fairgrounds with the Outlaw Monster Truck Drag.
This Back Channel Productions program is brought to you in part by Monsters Monthly. For up-to-date show, ticket info, and a wide selection of photo and video galleries, visit monstersmonthly.com. And by RPM Army, featuring action-packed content from around the web. Visit rpmarmy.com, your source for motorsports on the go. This Back Channel Productions program is brought to you in part by Crush This. For an inside look at the world of monster trucks, check out Crush This, available on iTunes, Spotify, and YouTube.
Welcome back to the Canfield Fairgrounds in Canfield, Ohio, where the wind is blowing, the air is cool, but the bad weather has moved off. And you see the black clouds over there in the background. They moved off over the tree line. They did dump a little water on the track, actually served to water this racing surface. Should help these guys hook up, and as I said, the air being cool will help make plenty of horsepower as Joe Sylvester, the hometown hero from right here in Canfield, pulls out in bad habit to start off our qualifying round action. Joe, kind of the test pilot on this track. This was his design, so he will be our crash test dummy right here. Nice launch over the buses. And a beautiful run for Bad Habit. He will set the pace at an 8.16 second elapsed time. We'll have to see where that puts him in the field by the end of qualifying, but Joe Sylvester now wanting to make someone run on a track he wouldn't test himself. 410 feet from starting line to finish line and plenty of shutdown space. These guys are going to use every bit of it, as you saw there. Again, a beautiful launch for Joe Sylvester in Bad Habit. The truck landing very well. Maybe a little bit of bounce in the front end he doesn't need, but other than that, those Hater Cut Yokohamas hooking up here on this Buckeye soil. Up next, a guy with sort of a 90s style chassis, a Jason Whitty design machine. Joe Nichter's Lethal Threat Stomper with Dalton Van Skyek at the wheel. And another good launch over the bus, carrying the front end a little bit. That's going to slow him down, but not a bad time for the Lethal Threat Stomper out of the Hoosier State. 9.53 second elapsed time as he'll go into second place right now, and I'm going to guess that's going to probably put him about mid-pack by the end of qualifying. We'll wait and see, though. There's plenty of guys that can get down this track in good shape. He did a good job, but some big horsepower rolls onto the starting line right now. The Hemi-powered Predator out of Brentwood, Tennessee, Alan Piezo, a legend in this game. One of a few who's here this weekend, and Alan, one of the few guys who runs a single shock per corner, but this truck lands so smooth, really set up for racing. He may have the trump card here as he waits on green. Beautiful execution of the bus. And a solid performance out of Alan Piezo and the Hemi-powered Predator. 8.36 for the Volunteer as Alan Piezo will go to second place. If he can keep that spot, we could see Piezo and Joe Sylvester get away from each other, which could net us a Bad Habit Predator final, and those two were slated to be the quickest in this field. That was the chatter in the pits before we got things underway. Look at the way this truck sticks when it hits the ground, and again, a perfect execution over these buses. Landed perfectly on the downside of that obstacle, put the horsepower to the ground, only 0.3 of a second off of the number one time, so he is right in this program. It would be very hard for anybody to squeeze themselves in between those two, but if anybody could, it could be this guy, Kyle Kunkel out of Canfield, Ohio, in Gary Bauer's incredible steel body Nightmare Express. Kunkel with a wild ride through the second half of this course. 10 flat, not what he was looking for, and I believe he did some dollar damage underneath of that machine as he landed on the throttle. That truck is making some interesting noises right now. Had to get into the throttle, I think, to keep the truck from tipping. Keep in mind, this is a left side drive truck, so he has a completely different view of the track from everybody else. Plus, with this steel body, he's carrying a little bit more weight. And you can see when he clipped the bus and came down, he got into the throttle. It looked like for the last third of the course, he did not have front-wheel drive. He went immediately back to the trailer to get that truck repaired. We'll see if he can get back in the action for round number 1. Right now, one of the superstars out of the western part of the U.S., all the way from Hoover, Utah, Zach Jensen, driving for Team Throttle Monster, one of the second-generation hot shots. This is Kamikaze. Zach would love to come all the way out here to Ohio and clean everyone's clock. Looking good so far. Solid run for the Redline Oil Ford Raptor out of the state of Utah. 8.92, solidly in third place for the moment. Zach Jensen with a great run. And that machine from Team Throttle Monster now wrapping up our Pro Monster Truck qualifying. Another guy who's been in this business for a long time, Jimmy Harrington, driving Alan Piezo's Pouncer. And Harrington not getting the run he wants. Sounds like he may have been having some fuel problems. 10.46 will put him at the bottom of the pack. So that means he'll be matching up with Joe Sylvester in our first round of Monster Truck Racing. As the crowd looks on, more qualifying to come now as our Pro Mods will be making their way to the track. I'm telling you about that in a second. First, we're going to look at how these trucks landed in qualifying. Bad Habit and Predator, you can see right there with each other. 8.16, 8.36, only 0.3 of a second away from each other. That will also keep them away from each other in the bracket. And it's Kamikaze who could get a win out here. He's looking solid. Joe Nichter's Stomper being driven by Dalton Van Skyhock, looking good in action as well. And the Nightmare Express and Pouncer both having problems. We'll see what they have when we get back to round 1 action. The only two guys that got into the double digits in qualifying round action is the Pro Mods. Get ready to qualify now. Joe Stewart in the Mudslinger out of Clark, Ohio. Guy who would love to make up for his first appearance on this tour. He said he's ready to bring the Thunder here to Canfield, Ohio today. Let's see what he does. Flying over the buses, and he just snapped the right front off. Looks like maybe a broken knuckle. Look at that. He cleanly snaps off the right corner, and wow. Joe Stewart's weekend is going to be short-lived. One of the best-looking Pro Mods in this field. I'll tell you what, Joe has had some tough luck on this tour so far this year, but at least he goes out in style this time. Let's watch it again. He had a good run going. Just so much hang time. Cleared the buses, landed on the front 2 tires, and snaps the right front knuckle clean off the housing. Joe Stewart in the Mudslinger, taking a wild ride to open up our Pro Mod qualifying. Here's a look at it from the finish line cam, and you can see him coming right at you. Does a good job of getting that truck back under control, but it looks like that'll be the end of the road for Joe. We're not done, though. Pro Mod qualifying and more coming your way when we come back to Canfield, Ohio.
The Outlaw Monster Truck Drags. Tickets and info available at OutlawMonsterTruckDrags.com.
Back at the Canfield Fairgrounds in Canfield, Ohio. The crowd is going wild. There you see Krista Sylvester. There's Gabby, Joe Sylvester's fiance, throwing some swag out to the fans here in the grandstands. They have packed this place for these monster trucks. We're going right back to qualifying, though, with our pro mods. Jason Haber, no cure out of Ascutney, Vermont. Looking good right now. And he will set the pace for Pro Mod qualifying, the first of those machines to make it across the finish line, 8.63. Crosses the finish line rubber side down, so he's got to be happy. The first time we saw Jason on this tour, he crossed the finish line on his top. As in Morganton, North Carolina, he would like to forget that run, but it's in the highlight reel, Jason, so you're going to have to live with that one. But solid run to open things up here in Pro Mod qualifying now. Hell's Bells, Matt Underwood. He and Ethan out here this weekend in their pair of awesome machines. Hell's Bells, another Toyota Tacoma body machine like the one before it. Love the stance of this truck. This one should be a killer in this field. We'll see how quickly he can get down the track. And he has problems immediately off the starting line. Backed out of it. Looks like he may be having some kind of fuel issue. Finishes the run strong, but you saw the smoke coming out when he got back on the throttle. 15.11, definitely not going to put him at the top of the field. In fact, he will likely be at the bottom as we're going to end up with likely a 5-truck field in the Pro Mods as Joe Stewart and Mudslinger is out with damage. Now, Ethan Underwood, the other side of that team out of Mechanicsville, Virginia, in the Outcast, the first winner in Pro Mod competition on this tour, and he was a survivor. Let's see if he can pick up where he left off. Wild ride for him as he clipped the buses. He looked like Coyote Kunkel coming down through that finish line area, 9.30. Not quite the run he was looking for, but take nothing away from him. The truck looked good otherwise. It definitely stayed on the ground. Once he got on the throttle, it seemed to cooperate with him. So if he can just get a little further on those buses, he should be in good shape. The stars and stripes flying off the back of this beautiful Chevrolet. Living up to that WFO on the side of that truck. Ethan Underwood up next. Jet Bob out of Moundsville, West Virginia. This is Hostile. An incredible pass. Interesting geometry on the rear end of this truck, sort of a diamond-shaped chassis, but it looks like it's definitely getting the job done as he exits 8.68, so he was moving up on Jason Haber. Not quite enough, though, to take over the #1 spot as we have one more truck to qualify. It will be none other than Jody David out of Cornish, Maine in the brand-new Poison Bad Frog Jeep. Beautiful run over the buses. Had to back out to straighten the truck up a little bit before the final jump, but that was a solid run for Jody as he exits the track at a 9.10. Not quite what he was looking for, but again, take nothing away from this guy. He came to play here today, and that will wrap up qualifying in our Pro Mods as we take a look at the ladder. Right now, no cure at an 8.63. Hostile with that 8.68. You can see literally 500ths apart in our qualifying round. Those two should be our top contenders here. Bad Frog, if he can keep that truck straight, could very well clean everybody's clock. Outcast, Hell's Bells, we'll see if he's got that truck ready to go when he comes back from round 1, as he had some problems, obviously, in our qualifying session. And, of course, Joe Stewart is out of it for the day. But, like I said, he went out in style. Now, we have 3 classes of racing here. This is the next, the Young Guns. And one of the most popular in the country has to be Colton Kaiser and this beautiful American Scout, a tribute to the first responders and the police officers of America. Colton and his father, Richie, out of Indianapolis, Indiana in this Piezo-built machine. Very daring run right there as he noses over a little bit, wisely gets into the throttle. And that big V8 power in the back of that machine as he crossed the finish line at 11.10. Nothing to be ashamed of. He's moving up on at least the bottom half of our qualifying field in our other 2 classes. So these guys should be in good company. Up next, Brandon Piezo, second-generation driver, another Piezo-built machine. All three of our Young Guns machines, of course, Piezo-built chassis, and it looks like King Cobra is having some problems. Beautiful truck. Unfortunately, though, he's going to pull right off the track. Not what he was looking for. Hopefully they can get that machine repaired. And finally, coming to the line, we talk about these machines all being Piezo-built. Well, here's the man himself, Alan Piezo. Maybe one of the only adult drivers that can cram himself inside of one of these machines. No offense, Alan. It is a blast to watch him drive. This machine has a blower motor in it. This is Predator Jr. Handle that bus in style as he heads for the final jump. And a beautiful run for Alan Piezo, who's got his hands full here this weekend with all this equipment he brought in. But a 10 flat to take the #1 spot out of Young Guns qualifying again. There's a blower motor in the back of that beautiful red, white, and blue Mini. So he and Colton Kaiser, of course, at the top of the field, they may be the only two able to come back. As we look at our round 1 bracket in Pro Monster Trucks, Bad Habit will match up with Pouncer. It'll be Kamikaze taking on Stomper, and then Predator slated to face Nightmare Express, but there could be a shakeup. If Nightmare Express cannot make the call, Bad Habit, as your #1 qualifier, could get a bye run, and that would move all the pairings down one, meaning Predator may have to take on Pouncer. So we'll wait and see if the brackets get shaken up when we come back to the Outlaw Monster Truck Drags here in Canfield.
Hey, welcome to Wildman Adventures. We're at the Silver Lake Sand Dragway. There really wasn't any off-roading back then. It was all off-road. We're on our way to Lima, Ohio. Got wooden wheels.
Oh, it's slippery as all get out of.
Hey, we're here with Rich Cummins. Hey, we're here with Mike Potter. Hey, we're here with Alan Piezo. Gotta check it out. This week we're gonna go down memory lane.
Back at the Canfield Fairgrounds in Canfield, Ohio with the Outlaw Monster Truck Drag. Getting set for round #1 of side-by-side Pro Monster Truck Racing. Our first pairing, that awesome-looking Ford Raptor out of Hoover, Utah. Zach Jensen and Kamikaze taking on that man right there, Dalton Van Skye. Joe Nichter's incredible Lethal Threat Stomper out of Portland, Indiana. We'll see. These guys were mid-pack in qualifying. They should be pretty evenly matched. Jensen clearing the buses. Maybe a little trouble in that section for Dalton Van Skyok. It looked like he clipped the top of the down ramp, and Jensen will move on into the semifinal round with the Redline Oil Special Kamikaze. His elapsed time really not far off his qualifying time. 8.97, so only 0.05 of a second slower than his qualifying run, and I think he actually might be hurting himself by jumping so far past the buses. The truck is hitting the ground kind of hard. He's having to reel it back in before he goes over the finish line. Of course, Dalton there and Stomper, you saw him just kind of clip the down ramp, and that hurt the forward momentum of the Lethal Threat Chevrolet on the far side of the track. But a good pair of runs nonetheless. A few people were skeptical of this track coming in, and it's proven to be some good racing here this afternoon, at least as far as the first pair we see in round #1. But we'll see as the afternoon goes on. Awesome pairing, though, coming right at you up over the bus jumps, and then the hard charge to the finish line. Take nothing away from Stomper, though. A solid run all the way to the finish. Up next, Jimmy Harrington there in Pouncer out of Springfield, Tennessee, driving for the Alan Piezo Monster Truck Racing Team out of Brentwood, Tennessee. Body looking a little worse for wear. I think the tires come up and hit the ear on the Beautiful 3D body on that machine a couple times. He stages side by side with your number one qualifier, Joe Sylvester in Bad Habit, who did indeed yield his buy run. Word is Coyote Kunkel and Nightmare Express will not be back in racing. Sylvester, though, choosing to keep fighting his way through. He's out to a big lead. That was all Bad Habit as Harrington's problems continue in the Pouncer. Something does not sound right in the back of that big cheetah-bodied machine. Bad Habit moving on to the semi-final round where he will take on the fast loser from this round. It looks like is going to be Dalton Van Skyhock and Stomper. You can see right there, Harrington just not able to get the power up and get over the buses. And not the run he was hoping for. But Joe Sylvester happy with his runs here so far today in the Bad Habit, the High Octane Coffee Yokohama sponsored machine from right here in Canfield, Ohio. That'll wrap up our first round of Pro Monster Truck Racing. We'll see Predator back. He got to buy into the next round. Now we look at our Pro Mod bracket. 4 trucks left. We had some damage in the qualifying round. Obviously, No Cure will take on Hell's Bells. And then Bad Frog will take on Outcast. So Jason Haber, your number one qualifier. Hoping for a 5-truck field. He would have gotten a buy run, but Hostile broke as well after his awesome qualifying run. He was second fast in qualifying, but unfortunately damage is going to keep him out of the bracket. A good crowd on hand here in Canfield, Ohio. Beautiful day in the Buckeye State. Great racing. Going on right now is Jason Haber in No Cure. Stages side by side with Matt Underwood in Hell's Bells. Little North-South Civil War right here as Vermont takes on Virginia. We'll see who's going to be the top Tacoma here this afternoon in round number 1. Now single elimination. No fast losers out of this first round. And Underwood cut a beautiful light. Look at the run for Hell's Bells. Way out in front, a huge leap across the finish line for Jason Haber. I think he got surprised on that run. We knew Hell's Bells had the capability to get down there quickly, but we were wondering after the problems he had in qualifying if the truck would be at 100%. He answered that question in a big way. Look at him, gets the jump off the line, took the lead. As soon as he got into no man's land, he was gone. Matt Underwood with an incredible win, and we're looking at the ETs right now. An 8.05 second run for Hell's Bells. The fastest pass of the day comes out of the Pro Mod bracket. Now, let's see if we can improve on that. Here's his brother, Ethan Underwood in Outcast, taking on the Poison Bad Frog. Another little North-South Civil War going on here in the second pairing of round number 1. This will be Maine versus Virginia. We'll see if Underwood can get past the Bad Frog. It could be a brother against brother final round. And another big jump off the start. A problem, though, as he clips the top of the down ramp. Pretty much the same run he put on in qualifying as he crosses the finish line at a 9.09 second run. Bettered his qualifying time, but man, is he taking some chances clipping the bus. He can get himself in big trouble, but he's got a heavy right foot. He'll pull right out of it as we take one more look at that incredible run. It will be Underwood against Underwood in our Pro Mod Finals. Outcast taking on Hell's Bells. When we get back to Pro Mod Racing action, stay with us. More from Canfield. Welcome back to the Canfield Fairgrounds in Canfield, Ohio, as Joe Sylvester and Bad Habit rolls out with the Heat Wave Yokohama High Octane Coffee sponsored Ford-bodied Bad Habit from right here in Canfield, Ohio. Joe getting ready for our semi-final round of side-by-side pro monster truck racing with the Outlaw Monster Truck Drags, a big year-end event. This is how we got to the semi-final round. You can see Nightmare failed to show in round number 1. Sylvester had the option to take a bye run and move all the pairings down one. Instead, he yielded that to Alan Piezo and Predator, who did not make a run in the last round, so that may end up hurting him. He'll take on Kamikaze, who defeated Dalton Van Skyhawk and Stomper. Stomper, your fast loser, will come back right now to take on Joe Sylvester in Bad Habit. See if the Lethal Threat Chevrolet can get out of the semifinal round. Truck has looked good so far here today, but Dalton's complained a little bit about the suspension not working the way he'd like it. Sylvester flying over the buses, and he will pick up the victory here and move on to the championship race. Take nothing away from Dalton Van Skyhawk and Stomper. He had a beautiful run over on the far side, just not quite enough to get himself in front of Joe Sylvester as we watch it again. Joe Sylvester flying over the buses, and watch Stomper land perfectly on the down ramp. Just didn't quite have the drive to get around the big Ford from right here in Canfield, Ohio. We'll see now who takes on Sylvester in the championship matchup. It'll either be that man right there, Alan Piezo, out of Brentwood, Tennessee, in the Hemi-powered Predator. He had a great qualifying run, but as I said it, he yielded his round 1 bye run, so he has one less run on this track than the man next to him. He'll have one less run on this track than everybody here if he makes it out of this round. Zach Jensen got to be the favorite right now, but as I mentioned, he's been jumping past the school buses. Piezo had a perfect execution over the school buses. If he could do that again, he may be able to outrun Jensen here. However, Jensen was very, very fast in the last round. Not able, though, to get past the qualifying time that Piezo laid down in the lane he is currently running. Great start for both trucks. A lead for Jensen over the buses. Wow, you talk about a comeback, Alan Piezo. Who won it, though? They were side by side at the finish.
And upset, Alan Piezo, Predator!
There you hear it from track announcer Todd Morey. Predator picking up that victory, and there you see how he did it. Got the truck on the ramp, and it stuck. No bounce. In the meantime, Zach Jensen, trying to collect Kamikaze, overshot the bus, and that cost him a lot of the drive that he had. Only 0.03 of a second separated those guys at the finish line, and you got to tip your hat to Piezo, by the way, coming back from about a truck and a half length deficit to pick up a win at 0.03 of a second. And there you see what our championship run is going to be. Bad Habit up against Predator, the Richard Midget horsepower in the back of Bad Habit, going to war with the big 572 Keith Black Hemi in the back of Alan Piezo's Predator. That should be an awesome championship round matchup as the sun, the golden sun, glowing over the Buckeye State here as it sets over the grandstands. Good crowd on hand watching the Outlaw Monster Truck Drags, and we're now on to the championship round of our Young Guns class. Unfortunately, only one guy made it out of qualifying with no damage. You can see him right there asking, where's Alan? He was slated to face Alan Piezo, one of his mentors who built this machine, but all Colton now has to do, because Alan couldn't make the line, is make a legal run, and he's doing it in style, a slap wheelie. And he flies to the finish line. Colton Kaiser, your first Young Guns champion on the Outlaw Monster Truck Drags Tour. And no one's going to be able to technically unseat him because this is his second to last show at the wheel of this incredible mini built by Alan Piezo out of Brentwood, Tennessee. And you can see Colton not afraid to drive it. And look at this. He's not done yet. Celebrating the victory. Looks like he's going to give us a little freestyle. These Piezo-built minis are by far the toughest and some of the most spectacular. Watch what I say as he stands it straight up and down, bouncing it off the wheelie bar. He is going to have no trouble moving to the seat of a big truck. He really hasn't. We've seen him a few times at the wheel of some of the big 66-inch tire, 12,000-pound monsters. One of his first rides was at the wheel of Vern House's dysfunctional machine, and he did great in that truck. He's had a few other shots behind the wheel of some monster trucks here in 2021, and he has done absolutely great driving the big trucks. But you can tell he still has fun in this machine. Swan song here. You see him pushing it. Colton Kaiser coming right into your living room with a big hit right there and a slap wheelie, dragging the wheelie bar. Putting that V8 horsepower to the ground. This kid is not afraid of it. I shouldn't call him a kid anymore. 18 years old and ready to jump behind the wheel of one of the big trucks as he wraps up an incredible freestyle celebration, taking the Outlaw Monster Truck Drags Young Guns Championship. The crowd loves Colton Kaiser. Been a blast to watch. One more look at this wild launch. Starting line jump right there. Hit the back of it straight up and down. Rocking and rolling him in the cab. He is trackside with Todd Morey.
Congratulations. It's time for a big truck. It's time, my man. You know, that seems to be the general consensus. You'll stay tuned for next year. There will be an American Scout full-size, blown, big black, alcohol-injected monster truck on this tour, kicking butt all across the country. I saw you launch it over here. You were looking at the sky. This truck takes a ton of abuse from you, man. Oh, absolutely. Being able to run on this tour is awesome because you kind of get to show the people what the in-between of one of these pro-mod monster trucks and one of these pro monster trucks looks like. This is what it is, everyone. Half-scale monster truck. Y'all seen it in action. Maybe it can be yours November 1st, everybody.
Hey, if you're in the market for a $60,000 Mini, this one's for sale. I hope that's the right price for that truck. Colton Kaiser, as I said, the crowd loves him. He's great with the kid. Look at that, hands the trophy off. Back down to there because they all want it. Grabbing for it. Hey, we're not done yet. The Pro Mod final round, the Monster Truck final round, and parents, grab your kids. We got something very special coming up when we get back to Canfield.
Monster Truck Drags. Tickets and info available at outlawmonstertruckdrags.com.
Back at the Outlaw Monster Truck Drags in Canfield, Ohio at the Canfield Fairgrounds, ready for our Pro Mod Monster Truck Racing Finals. A pair of brothers, brother against brother on the starting line here. The purple and green Hell's Bells. That's Matt Underwood out of Mechanicsville, Virginia, taking on Ethan Underwood in that wild-looking Chevrolet called Outcast. The stars and stripes hanging off the back. These guys ready to go at it here in this championship race. The big surprise of round one had to be Hell's Bells, that wild-looking Tacoma nearest the camera, when he outran your fast qualifier Jason Haber in the other Tacoma here in the field. That was no cure. Now on the starting line with his brother in Outcast, who has taken some wild rides here today in the Buckeye State. Problems immediately for Hell's Bells. It is all Outcast with the victory. And it looks like he's dropped a drive shaft, and he's going to use up all the shutdown space as Hell's Bells doesn't even make it over the bus. Maybe a broken axle, but they both ran out. Look at that. Outcast actually out on the access road. used up every bit of space here at the Canfield Fairgrounds. No harm, no foul, though. The safety crew fetching him, headed back down the front stretch. Now there you see Matt Underwood waving to the crowd, and there's your winner, Ethan Underwood, your Pro Mod champ here in Canfield. Mr. Sylvester giving him a ride back down the front stretch, and it looks like he literally snapped the steering column in the Outcast Chevrolet. The steering wheel came right off in his hands. Ran that truck hard, and you can see from this takeoff, Hell's Bells clearly with problems, drivetrain, probably a broken axle. Knocks him out of competition. Not the way Ethan Underwood wanted to pick up the victory, but survival seems to be the way you make it through a track like this. Outcast, your champion in the Pro Mod class here in Canfield. Now we move on to the championship race in our Pro Monster category. There you see Joey Sylvester in the Heatway, Yokohama High Octane Coffee Bad Habit Ford with the Richard Midget horsepower in the back, taking on Alan Piezo in the Hemi-powered Predator, the big 572 kb motor in the back of that machine. One of the original 3D bodied monster trucks in the country. Now moving into stage, two very different designs in monster truck racing. Both of them have been very effective here today. Can Piezo pick up a racing victory? The last time he won here was 1996 against Bigfoot. Good runs going, but clearly problems for Alan Piezo as he almost takes out our finish line camera. Not sure if he just got himself crossed up or if he actually had a mechanical problem, but your win is going to go to the home state, hometown hero, Joe Sylvester in Bad Habit. As he comes back up the front stretch, Todd Morey making his way down. You can see they took off together. Piezo, just like in previous rounds, he'll give you the mid-range, but you can see right there something going away. And it would appear that Piezo lost the front end. Word we're getting is he may have broken the front differential. We were talking to Joey earlier. He said if he had to pick somebody to win this race, it wasn't Joey. He was actually rooting for Alan on that one too, believe it or not, even from the driver's seat. But he was not going to yield Alan a free victory. Joe Sylvester, your champion here in Canfield, Ohio at the Outlaw Monster Truck Drag season finale.
Two over the left, two up between the legs. Helmet is off, head and neck restraint is off. Ladies and gentlemen, get it here now, Joe Sylvester, Bad Habit! My man, I'll tell you what, when Piezo's got this downhill, down backside of the ramp figured out, and he was coming, something happened to him at the end there, but man, it was tight for a while. I knew he was going to be bringing that heavy horsepower. That man is a legend in our sport. If any of you guys don't know, he's been dominating drag racing for as long as I've been a little kid. You know, he's raced here. Last time he raced here was 1996. I'm pretty sure he won. So I knew he was bringing the heat in the finals. I was not going to be backing down. Joe, look at this crowd at home. My goodness, there's a ton of people here to come out and see this great show. Man, I'm so stoked on this crowd. Thank you, Canfield, for coming out. If you guys don't know me, I live 3 miles from here. You are all my friends, my family. I love each and every one of you guys.
A very popular victory here in Canfield, Ohio. The hometown hero, Joe Sylvester, knocking out one of the legends of the sport, Alan Piezo. Not the way Joey would have liked to have done it. As you can see, Piezo, once he lost the front end, could not keep the truck straight, very wisely backed out of it to avoid getting into a freestyle obstacle. And look at that, Joe Sylvester giving the hat off his head to a young fan. Some Fairway Ford swag going up into the stands there. A very happy competitor in Joe Sylvester from right here in Canfield, Ohio. He'll jump back in Bad Habit and roll it off the front stretch. In the meantime, coming around the back, take a look at this beautiful towering Ford Bronco, the 79 Dentside Bronco of Jerry Richmond out of Ashtabula, Ohio. Terminator 2 rolling out in front of the grandstands, and there you see Gary Bauer in the Lone Ranger tribute, a very familiar sight. Gary and Jerry both performed here. We take you back to 1990. Two Buckeye Bandits going side by side right here in front of the grandstands 30-some years ago in Canfield, Ohio.
I want to talk to you. My goodness, great to see you. Great job on this truck. How far did this industry come, my man? Well, the evidence tonight how far it's come. When you look at this old dinosaur, and you look at like that hot rod by Piezo Sylvester rod, that is getting gas over that. Is it not, folks?
Todd Morey and Jerry Richmond getting the crowd pumped up for this. This is going to be a classic. You've seen the future, you've seen the present, you've seen it all. Well, here's the past. Some old school car crushing courtesy of Gary Bauer in that awesome Lone Ranger replica tribute, whatever you want to call it. We're just going to call it Lone Ranger, the big block Ford in the front of that one. Dual carburetors, an old school setup, but that truck is rough and tough. I don't know if you want to call it rough. It's one of the shiniest machines on the track here, albeit a little dirtier than Jerry Richmond's because Jerry didn't want to go up and over the cars here today. But tip your hat to these guys. Getting a little lift out of the front end right there. Gary Bauer in the Lone Ranger. He has had quite the following in this sport. And keep in mind, Gary did not jump out of these trucks. Neither did Jerry when they were still in their leaf-sprung form. These guys went all the way into the coil-over, the nitrogen shock era. They did the Fast and Furious drag racing right here in Canfield, Ohio. Some of the biggest stages in the sport. Gary not done though. Look at this, up on top of the bus. It's Lone Ranger. Gary Bauer out of Vienna, Ohio. Standing tall in front of the crowd, wrapping up this exhibition crush. The Outlaw Monster Truck Drag still not done. Freestyle is coming your way when we come back to Canfield, Ohio, and once again, Gary Bauer crushing the iron down on the backside of this awesome monster truck course. Stay with us. Wild action just ahead with the Outlaw Monster Truck Drag. Classics clear the front stretch to open up the view to the infield as we get ready for Monster Truck Freestyle. These two beautiful shiny machines paving the way for these bruised and battered monster truck racers of today. You saw the Detroit Iron opening the door to some steel tubing and fiberglass bodied monster trucks. Here comes Dalton Van Skyog opening up freestyle, driving Joe Nichter's incredible Lethal Threat Stomper built by Jason Whitty back in the early 2000s. The motor in this truck sitting far back, sitting up real high. This truck is a wheelie machine. Getting after it right there. Just warming the thing up. We know he's got more in the tank right now. Feeling the truck out. He was telling us earlier the shocks are not quite to his liking. They've been rebuilding the shocks on this truck, trying to get the thing to land the way they want it to. It's almost there. But he doesn't want to hurt the truck or hurt himself. Dalton laying down a run, though, going after the big stuff here in the Lethal Threat Stomper. We'll see what he has in a big Chevrolet out of the Hoosier State. He's got some nice moves going right now. May need to pick up the pace a little bit, but as I said, he's feeling out. There we go, the slap wheelie from Dalton Van Skyok in Stomper, the Lethal Threat Chevrolet out of Portland, Indiana. Dalton and Joe and even Richie Kaiser working real hard to get this machine out here on the track in the best possible fashion they could, show that this truck may be a little bit aged, but it is certainly not out of the game. It is one of the toughest machines in the country. It's certainly one of the most fun trucks to watch in any competition. Dalton Van Skyok setting the pace for the rest of the field. Looking to throw it into a donut, but you gotta be careful. The dirt here is notoriously tacky. You don't want to high side one of those, especially not as good an afternoon as he has had. Looks like he might be having a little steering problem right now, but a great run for Dalton to open up our freestyle competition here this evening in Canfield. Another look at that first kind of pogoing wheelie that he laid down. Again, just getting it warmed up right there, and then back-to-back wheelies going back down toward the pit area for the monster trucks. Look at that, just standing the front end up, carrying it out onto the dirt track here in Canfield, Ohio. Look at the score of 4, a 5, and a 5 of 14 to set the pace from our 3 judges that include Chris Warnick and Jerry Richmond, our freestyle judges here, and representative from Fairway Ford. Helping score these machines as Alan Piezo puts the Hemi-powered Predator on the track for freestyle. Believe me when I tell you, Alan has not lost a thing over the years. Truck may not always look the prettiest, but it will run as hard as anybody else. We've seen him do some amazing things in freestyle competitions throughout the different versions of the Predator monster trucks that he's had, whether it be in a Patrick chassis or one of his own custom builds. This truck, of course, with those single shocks on it. Occasionally people will get a little skeptical that this truck can really throw it down in freestyle, but again, we have seen him lay down some absolutely awesome runs with that big Hemi horsepower in the back. Getting a little wild right there. The body coming apart on him right now as he's definitely put that truck through its paces here today. Not looking quite as smooth as it did in the racing pass. As you can see, it's very wet out there on the end zone of this track as he slides through the wet grass and mud off the end. That might cause a few problems for these guys trying to get set up for these jumps as they come back down here. Truck landing nicely, even though the body's getting ripped off of him right now. Alan. Grinding the Hemi horsepower into the dirt as he's cruising right now in this freestyle competition. I think he's raised the bar just a little bit. The momentum has been great in this run. Going move to move. May not be the biggest air we're going to see here this evening, but definitely laying down a shot. The body hanging off of it. Just a little bit of an added aesthetic. And Alan Piezo wrapping up an awesome freestyle run in Predator. The judges showing their score to our officials up at the top of the stands right now. We'll tell you what those scores are here in a second, but look at this. Keep in mind, by the way, this truck only weighs about 9,700 pounds. It's the lightest machine out here right now, and performance level's been just great with this thing. Getting a little wild there, but look at 6, a 5, and a 5 by 2 points. He jumps into the lead here in our freestyle competition. Now, a guy who definitely wants to make up for not being able to race a hometown hero. Kyle Kunkel had transmission problems during intros, broke a drive shaft in qualifying, and now turning loose. Nightmare Express with a huge launch out of the gate. Keep in mind, this is a steel-bodied monster truck, and he is sitting on the left-hand side, pretty much right behind that left front tire. So his vision is very different from some of these other drivers. Kind of a different ride that he's getting at the wheel of this machine. Joe and Kyle and Gary Bauer kind of pulled this machine out of mothballs and got it back to nearly show condition. It's a beautiful truck, very brightly colored, little hood coming off of it. That's the only piece of fiberglass he had to worry about, and he just ripped the hood clean off the front of the truck. You can see that chassis geometry there. Familiar sight in the late 90s, mid-90s, that abbreviated front-end design. You can see how the shocks mount to it. He is laying down a run right now. Nightmare Express going to work here in Canfield, Ohio. The world's first multi-passenger race-worthy monster truck built by Gary Bauer. Never really got to do it. He just mauled the hood. Kyle Kunkel laying it down here in front of the hometown folks. I'd say he's definitely raised the bar. Nothing against Alan Piezo. They both had chunks of the body flying off, but Kunkel has had some great hang time and some brutal landings on this thing. The truck looks like it's running pretty well, but it's leaned way over to the left. Hopefully we'll be able to straighten up that sway bar, pushing the truck real hard, though, through the racing lanes. And another massive launch for Kunkel. Now he's leaning way far over to the left-hand side. Can't seem to get that thing to land to the right. Every one of these jumps has kicked him hard left. And now he's got to be careful. If he gets too much air, it'll slam him down. It could put that truck right on its top. And again, with a steel body, that's the last thing he wants. That would be a very, very costly repair. Kicking up the dust to wrap up the run. The hometown fans love it. Coyote Kunkel is the track crew now going out to pick up the body. Where did he land in the scoring? That had to be a takeover run, as we'll watch the highlights again. This was his opening move. He got a nice kind of poloed it into a wheelie right there. Very wisely set the front end down and then went right into this jump, and I think that he surprised even him. And look at the scores. A 22, an 8, a 7, and a 7 for Kyle Kunkel from Canfield, Ohio in Nightmare Express. And I gotta tell you, when this hood came up, there is no way he could see where he was going. But he lined it up with the bus perfectly. Hey, more freestyle to come when we come back to Canfield, Ohio. Back in Canfield, Ohio, with the Outlaw Monster Truck Drags continuing freestyle. Your leading score is Nightmare Express with a 22. Kyle Kunkel, one of the hometown heroes, brutalizing that classic steel-bodied machine right now, though a guy who would love to take that lead away from him. Zach Jensen in the Redline Oil Ford Raptor called Kamikaze out of Hoover, Utah. Came a long way and would like to leave here with a little bit of hardware. He does not want to go all the way back to Utah empty-handed. Just getting the truck warmed up right now. We know this thing can get some incredible hang time. This Team Throttle Monster Machine's notorious for laying down some amazing freestyle runs. Getting some big air over those center jumps. Nice hit right there again. The big air is going to be right down the center of the track, and look at that, trying to one-up Kyle Kunkel right there. Zach Jensen and Kamikaze saw an opportunity and went for it. This is a tough place to find the variety, too, because it's so tight here. This being a race-oriented series, the racing lanes take priority, so you have to pick your lines very carefully. Look at that. Zach Jensen finding some hang time over on the backside. Got him a good run going. Flips the down ramp. What does Zach Jensen have left in the big Ford Raptor? Out of Utah, smoke rolling out the back of the big Ford. A nice hit right there. Wild ride as he clips the down ramp and he's walking on the wild side. Bicycle into the end zone. And he has all but used up every ounce of this truck. He's had big air. He's had a save. What's left in the bag of tricks? Going for the Cyclone. He has another save right there, but I said this dirt could get tacky. He found tacky dirt in the slickest part of the track. What a run for Kamikaze, and this was one of the biggest hits of the run. That's the same ramp that launched Nightmare Express into low orbit. Zach Jensen using it to perfection. That truck soaking up everything he threw at it. Had a lot of speed, a lot of hang time, and I'll tell you what, I doubt very seriously he did not take over the #1 spot. Here was that save over in the starting line area, and then of course he wrapped it all up, attempting to get into Cyclone territory. Didn't work for him. A 9, an 8, and an 8 to take the #1 spot with a 25. The Redline Oil Kamikaze out of Utah. Zach Jensen in the lead, and that leaves one to go. Joe Sylvester from right here in Canfield, Ohio, in the Yokohama High Octane Coffee Heatwave sponsored Bad Habit Ford. Nice hit right there. The body looks a lot better than I thought it would when we saw him again. Remember, back in Morganton, North Carolina, he shredded that beautiful Dentside Ford when he flipped it over back. Now, letting it all hang out. He's got nothing to lose. He's right here close to home, and he is putting on a classic. So far, just getting warmed up for this crowd. Again, getting into that slick grass over there. Man, is that mud causing him problems, which is really odd with all that cleat on those tires. I should tell you, that end of the track is going away, but he is still laying down a shot right now. In the Bad Habit, Richard Midget-powered Ford body machine from right here in Canfield. This has been a dream of his to get back on this track and to get back on it with this truck in front of these hometown fans and show off the way he's able to right now. It's got to mean a lot to him. 'Cause 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 What a run he's laying down. Wow, he's in trouble now. Look at that. That could have ended very badly. Had that tire hooked up, it could have put him right over on his lid. Caught the edge of the race lane. He's not giving up though, hammering on it with some huge hang time. Slipping and sliding. Joe Sylvester, those hater cuts digging in. I think the truck, the transmission starting to get a little bit hot. It does not sound like he's getting the response out of it that he would quite like to, but he is not quitting. And a wild sideways launch for the big Ford out of Ohio. He is just flying over these buses. Keep in mind, from where the judges are in the grandstands, that is where this is going to be judged. This is going to be a tight competition right now. Zach Jensen laid down a run. It was a great run, but was it enough to stay out in front of Joe Sylvester? Look at the hang time for Bad Habit. And look at that, the scores come back. A 9, a 9, and a 10, a 28. Your freestyle champion with the clean sweep in his hometown, Joe Sylvester. Bad Habit.
He's coming down. He's Joe Sylvester. He's Bad Habit. Did I win? Yes, you won, my man.
Guys, a win for me is a win for you guys. You guys came to see a show. That's what the Outlaws do. That's what we do every single time we hit the track. My goal is to give you guys your best hard-earned money's worth of a show, and you got to get it tonight.
What a way to wrap up an awesome day of action here in Canfield, Ohio. There was something for everyone. We want to congratulate all our champions. There you see Joe Sylvester claiming it all in the Pro Monster Truck category. Ethan Underwood, your Pro Mod champion, and a big congratulations to Colton Kaiser winning the first ever Young Guns Championship in the Outlaw Monster Truck Drags. Hey, the Outlaws rolling out onto the front stretch for one final goodbye to the fans here in Canfield, Ohio. We want to thank you for joining us. A big thanks to the Canfield Fairgrounds for their hospitality. When you see this event on the calendar next year, or you see the Outlaws coming to your area, do not miss it. It is a wild, wild day of action. Thanks again. We will see you next time.
He's smiling! He's smiling! Look at that!